A soldier's stand. How a veteran fought back when his home was stolen. The sun barely crested the horizon when Captain James Harper stepped off the bus, his boots grinding into the Texas dirt. His duffel bag sagged on his shoulder, heavy with 6 months of dust and duty from a remote base in East Africa. The ache in his shoulder, a souvenir from a shrapnel wound, pulsed with every step. But it wasn't the pain that slowed him. It was the promise of home, his weathered porch, the oak tree where he'd buried a time capsule with his brother, the chipped red door his mother painted years ago. That 3-acre plot, paid for with sweat and savings, was his sanctuary. He'd earned it, not just with money, but with service in places most couldn't find on a map. As he rounded the bend to his property, James froze. His house was gone. In its place stood a gleaming villa, all sharp angles and oversized windows, like something ripped from a real estate ad. A new mailbox bore a stranger's name. The hand-carved sign reading Harper Family Est. 1998 inch had vanished. A sheriff's deputy stood at the driveway, hand on his hip, eyes hard. "Sir, you need to stop right there," the deputy said, voice clipped. "You're trespassing." James's duffel hit the ground like a stone. "This is my home," he said, pulling a worn folder from his jacket. "I've owned this land for 22 years. I'm a veteran, just back from deployment. Check the deed." The deputy didn't glance at the papers. "County records say this property was sold through HOA proceedings while you were overseas. Take it up with them." James's jaw tightened. "The HOA? You're saying they took my land while I was deployed?" "Notices were sent," the deputy replied, unmoved. "No response. Property was deemed abandoned. You need to leave." James's breath caught, sharp and jagged. "I was in a war zone. You think I'm checking HOA mail in Djibouti?" The deputy's hand hovered near his holster. No apology, just protocol. James stood there, fists clenched, staring at the white fence, the balloons tied to a stranger's porch. A welcome home banner for someone else's family. His silence roared louder than any shout. Betrayal burned in his chest, not just for the land, but for the life it held. He was a stranger on his own soil. The air smelled of fresh paint and artificial mulch as James approached the villa. A realtor, young and slick in a gray suit, stepped out, name tag reading Ryan, Vista Heights Realty. His smile faltered at the sight of James's dusty uniform. "Sir, please stay off the lawn. We've got buyers touring." "This isn't a showroom," James said, voice low taut. "This is my land. My name's on the deed." Ryan's chuckle was practiced, patronizing. "I get it, sir, but this property's under contract. If you got questions, talk to the HOA." James stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "I'm a soldier, back from deployment, and you're standing on my home. I have tax records, receipts, everything. The problem isn't confusion. It's someone selling my life while I was serving." Ryan's smile froze. A security guard appeared, stocky, shades dark, radio crackling. "Sir, leave now," the guard said, hand on his radio. James pulled a yellow tax bill from his pocket. Paid in full. No liens, no warnings. The guard didn't look. "Trespasser," he muttered into his radio, refusing to leave. James's voice rose, stunned. "I fought for this country, and you're calling the cops on me for standing on my own dirt." Ryan adjusted his tie. "The HOA marked this lot abandoned. Unpaid fees, architectural violations. It's all legal." "I was deployed," James snapped. "My mail was locked in a post office box. I never got a notice." Ryan shrugged. "Not our department. Talk to the HOA." A patrol car rolled up. James stood still, chest heaving, watching strangers price his memories for someone else's future. Something inside him didn't break, it hardened. At Vista Heights ribbon cutting, Edward Lawson, HOA president, stood in a cream blazer, silver hair gleaming, toasting with champagne. Investors clapped. Cameras flashed. "A new era of suburban living," he declared, all charm and sound bites. No one asked how the land was acquired. Behind closed doors, Lawson had seen James's unclaimed tax notices as opportunity. A veteran, overseas, unresponsive, perfect. He stacked fines, exploited loopholes, and marked the property abandoned. With a forged e-signature, he sold James's life for profit. Meanwhile, James sat in a courthouse hallway, a manila folder heavy in his hands, tax statements, deployment orders, proof he hadn't vanished. He expected justice, urgency. Instead, he got a hearing date 9 months out. At a preliminary meeting, the HOA's lawyer, smug in a navy tie, barely looked up. Notifications were sent, Mr. Harper. Silence is consent. The e-signature on the waiver is valid. That's not my signature, James said, heart pounding. I never saw that document. The lawyer shrugged. It was through our secure portal. If someone accessed your email, that's not our issue. James stared at the table, a glossy flyer showing a couple on his porch, his land, his life, repackaged. He stood, straightened his dress blues, and walked out. The system hadn't seen the last of him. In a motel room, James dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Mac, he said when the line picked up. They took my house. Sergeant Daniel Mac Sullivan, now a Pentagon legal analyst, didn't hesitate. Send me everything. By morning, Mac had a summary of violations. By noon, James sent it to news outlets with a headline, Veteran returns from deployment to find home sold. That evening, James stood by the Vista Heights sign, holding his service orders for a reporter. His face was calm, human, heartbreaking. The story aired at 6, then 11, then exploded. TikTok videos captioned, "This is how we treat heroes," went viral. Reddit dissected HOA bylaws. Veterans shared their own stories. One wrote, I saw Harper pull men from a burning truck in Kandahar. Now he's locked out of his home? Not on our watch. The public didn't just watch, they acted. Donations, legal aid, and housing offers poured in. The story wasn't just news, it was a reckoning. The next morning, a Pentagon-stamped envelope hit Lawson's desk, a federal investigation notice for unlawful property seizure. FBI agents raided the HOA office, seizing files and logs, especially the forged signature. Military trucks rolled into Vista Heights, soldiers sealing driveways, freezing transactions. Residents gawked. Lawson, holed up in a hotel, issued a statement blaming James. It backfired. The public had seen James's truth, his orders, his payments, his silence from the HOA. Lawson's empire crumbled. 3 weeks later, the courtroom buzzed. Veterans packed the benches, standing for James. The judge's voice was steel. The HOA knowingly violated federal protections. Documents were falsified. Notices undelivered. Actions were fraudulent. Lawson got 17 years for conspiracy, forgery, and obstruction. The HOA dissolved, its contracts voided. Vista Heights became a legal no-man's land. Mortgages frozen, investors exposed. James's land was restored, every inch. The Army rebuilt the records, and his name was etched back into the registry. One morning, he stood on his rough, battle-scarred soil, the oak tree still stretching wide. He drove a hand-carved sign into the ground. This land belongs to Captain James Harper, U.S. Army veteran. No fanfare, no crowd, just truth. Instead of a mansion, James built a small cabin, a cot, and folded flag inside. It wasn't for comfort, it was a statement. Veterans came, then journalists, then school kids. His story taught service, law, sacrifice. When asked what he'd achieved, he said, I wanted my home, and I wanted no soldier to come back to an empty foundation. His words echoed on the House floor, in editorials at conferences. James never fenced his land again. The sign said enough. Across the country, people learned, you don't take a soldier's home and walk away. Not when he's Captain James Harper. We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the injustice James faced? Should he have fought harder, or was his calm resolve enough? How do you view the role of violence versus restraint in battles like this? Take a stand, share your perspective, and let's spark a real conversation about fairness and sacrifice in today's world.